Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
In this week's episode of the Kindness Project, we talk about compass, the speaking clock, and we have part 2 of our interview with Emma McNally from Achieve Your Greatness.
Welcome one and all to another episode of the Kindness Project. I'm joined by two blokes who seem to make the other points of the compass of the country we're making.
That is true. I mean, no, I'll tell you what we haven't got, because there's only 3 of us. I'm south, you're north, Ryan's is east. We need somebody on the west coast, don't we?
We do.
Do we know
Who are we
anything
going to have on the west coast?
We should just randomly invite people from the West Coast.
Yes.
Just look them up on 192 and
Look them up on what? In the what?
192. It's like the directory inquiries book.
Surely we know someone on the west coast. Surely we know someone on the west coast.
I'm pretty sure we know a few people on the west coast. But the problem is, I don't know that many people on the west coast of Wales. Because if we're going, I mean, we're not going properly north with you, otherwise you'd be in John O'Groats. We're not going properly south with me, otherwise I'd be in the Isle of Wight, or Southampton at the very least. I'm not. I'm just outside London, and we're not going properly east with Russ because he's miles away from the sea. So if we don't need to go properly west, do we? If we had somebody in Wales, that'd be fine, wouldn't it?
So what you're basically saying is we're doing it in half measure.
We're not as close as we could be, north, east, south, but we're still pretty much there. Why are you shaking your head?
I think the listeners are going to be well disappointed with your explanation of that.
Go on then, you give it a go.
They're going to be like he said, I can't remember where we are now.
If you don't know where we are, we're in a lot of trouble.
That's right.
Right, so we are in Essex, Glasgow, and the place where people primarily go to die, Norfolk. Sorry, retire. I meant retire.
Unbelievable.
Now, I've heard good things about Norfolk, Russ. I've heard good things about it. But, yeah, a lot of people go up there when they get a little bit older, aren't they? What's the average age in your village?
I don't know.
Sorry?
I don't know what the average age is. Mind you, it's getting younger because there's a lot of people moving into like the housing I'm in with kids, like the blocks and that, with kids.
Fair enough. If you had to have a guess at the average age, Rose, what are you going to go for?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely retirement age.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
70, 80?
No, not 70, 80. I'd say 55 upwards.
Okay, fair enough. What do you reckon the average age is? I mean, in your flat block, Charlotte, it's clearly 18, isn't it? Because the majority of people are...
It's probably somewhere between 18 and 21, yeah.
The average age I bring the average age in my house down, just so you know, because I'm not the oldest in my house.
You don't bring it down that much.
A little bit. I bring it down a little bit.
Not that much.
I bring it down a tad.
You probably bring it about a year or two down, but not by that much.
Yeah, and I mean, the revelation, Charlotte, is that Russell, who is normally on the bleeding edge of technology, still uses 192.com. I don't know anybody who uses directory inquiries anymore, Russ.
Right. Let me just clarify with you. I don't use 192.com. I don't look people up on 192.com.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
Right.
I am aware of
When was the last time you phoned the speaking clock?
I don't phone the speaking.
When was the last time you logged into AOL?
That's like £1.50 to call the speaking clock now.
Christ.
The speaking clock must be obsolete, mustn't it? Surely.
People still got it, and it's £1.50 a call.
Does the speaking clock still exist?
Yes.
And what is the point there?
And the number's still 123.
Right, apparently, BT says the speaking clock still provides a valuable service to our customers. We have no intention to change in the foreseeable future. And in its heyday, guess how many every single year? And clearly this was before the internet and all that stuff.
It was in the high millions.
25 million.
So you're going 25, Charlotte. What are you going for?
Yeah, I'd say more, unique calls.
Unique calls to the speaking clock.
I'd say it was over 100 million.
You're going for 100 million. Charlotte's going for 25 million.
No.
80,000 million.
Sophie's going for 80,000
Oh,
million.
yeah, Russ is right. It's probably higher than that.
Go on, give it a go.
No, I think
In
Russ
its
is right. In the
heyday.
hundreds of millions, probably.
Well, hundreds of millions, that could be anything from 100.
200 million. I don't know.
The right answer is 250 million.
Yeah.
250 million calls to the speaking clock. How many do you reckon it gets now? I've just looked it up.
I just looked it up as well, so I know.
Sophie just said 2.
50,000.
Rose was going 50,000.
Well, I looked it up because Russ was talking like with such this, and I was like, I know.
Isn't it?
Well, I think it's 25 million. Am I right, Mo, Charlotte?
You're wrong.
No, that's the numbers I've got.
You're close, but you're wrong.
Well, how much is it?
30 million.
No, you've got old numbers, I'm afraid. Where are you getting your numbers from?
BBC.
I'm getting from Wikipedia. What year's your numbers?
2011.
2011?
Yeah.
I got mine from last Tuesday. Do you want to go more up to date than that?
Oh, shit.
So I am genuinely surprised, though, the speaking clock every year still gets 25 million calls.
Yeah.
Seems a lot, doesn't it?
So surprised how many people still call the directory inquiries.
Sorry, have we been secretly sponsored by 192.com and you haven't told me?
192, the actual.
Stop saying 192.
The actual directory inquiries on the phone rather than online.
And what number's that, Russ?
I don't know offhand. 150.
I think it's 192, isn't it?
150, I think, is the
150. Okay. How about the speaking clock, Russ?
123.
How many of the 25 million calls are you?
I never called the speaking clock.
All of them.
So you reckon they're all you?
Being on the cutting edge of technology as I am, I've got a nice Apple Watch. So
you don't need it. And it syncs itself and does all that. Yeah, exactly. But then as you bear in mind, there's a lot of primarily in your village.
People.
There's a lot of older people still out there who may not be as comfortable. They may not be like Russ on the bleeding edge of technology.
Yeah.
So they like as you said, the speaking clock might be quite a valuable service, mightn't it? So
well, I mean, it's gone down by 5 million in the last 11 years.
Yeah, but again, I'm still shocked that 25 million people. Actually, not 25 million people use it. 25 million calls. So that could be, I don't know, 2.5 million people using it a number of times every year. So yeah, that's the reality of it, isn't it?
And Rush, you said it was £1.50.
Yeah, 150, I think.
Oh, right. Oh, Charlotte's got her frugal side on, and she's trying to work.
The BBC from 11 years ago said it was 31p. It's gone up a bucket load.
Well, even at 31p, that sounds expensive, doesn't it? Anyway,
that's
being on the bleeding.
measure the rate of inflation now. How expensive is it?
And that's the measure of inflation. How
I
expensive
can remember when you
was
could,
the speaking clock, and what is it now?
I can remember when you could make a call with 10p in one of them public phone boxes. Now you can't do it for less than 50p.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, is this moaning about inflation corner I've come logged on to, or the
Yeah.
Kindness Project?
Yeah, you would be surprised at the cost for Freddo now.
Yeah.
I didn't realise I was going to log on and have a really interesting chat about inflation.
Well, that's right up your street, isn't it? You love a good
Well,
friend.
professionally, I'm happy to chat about inflation day in, day out. But as this is the Kindness Project,
No,
should we
but
get on with a little bit of kindness?
You can't say it's not interesting though.
What's the most interesting inflationary fact, Charlotte, you know?
I don't know.
Is it the fact that the speaking clock used to be 32p and now it's £1.50?
31p and now it's £1.50, and that's increased in 11 years. That's a large increase for 11 years.
I know
True.
what the most annoying inflation fact is. Things keep going up.
He's not wrong.
When did you become the Bank of England chief economist, Russ? Because that is insightful, mate. That
Just
is
call me
like...
Robert.
Sorry?
Just call me Robert.
Robert who?
Mr. Peston.
Oh, right, okay. That's the politics journalist on the ITV.
He's on the ITV, isn't he?
I thought you were going to go for Martin Lewis.
No.
Oh, right, okay. I mean, I'd love to see Russ as the head political journalist for the ITV.
That's your next Halloween costume, Russ.
Robert Peston. Nobody else in the country is going as Robert Peston for Halloween.
I bet a few people went as Chris Whitty, though.
Do you reckon? Chris Whitty was a popular?
He was popular.
Right, okay. So this is what we're going to do. We are nearing Christmas when we record this, but let's just go on a bit of a tangent and decide what we're going to be wearing next Halloween. Russ is going as Robert Peston. Charlotte, what should I go as? And you've got to pick something that nobody else in the country is going to...
I'll be a nun.
Well, you want Dad to be a nun?
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem, because there will be other nuns. I need an outfit where,
Paddington Bear.
apart from me, there is none.
Paddington Bear.
Oh, that was a cheesy joke. What is there not a lot of people wanting to dress up as?
Mr. Blobby.
No, there'll be Mr. Blobbies.
Oh,
Mr. Blobby's not niche enough. And why you?
Sexy Mr. Bobby.
One of those big monsters.
Did you hear what Sophie just said?
No.
Now these might be niche enough. What about a sexy Mr. Blobby?
That's been done. I'm sorry, I've seen pictures
Yeah,
of that.
I reckon it has.
Oh yeah, it has.
Who's the?
It has.
Where's that? Where's that on the internet? I'm not googling it.
I'm doing it.
No, she's on early. They've caught her Googling that.
I know, yeah, exactly. If you get sent home early, Charlotte, I know you've been chucked out of uni for Googling the sexy Mr. Blobby.
It's funny.
Okay, can I just tell you, talk about bad dad jokes. We were out in Greenwich Market today. We had a little drive over to Greenwich. And I possibly told, off the cuff, the cheesiest joke I've ever told in my life. Because Mum, Charlotte and Nanny Tracy were talking about kids' diseases and what they're catching. And I said...
I said... Name.
Sorry?
You said my name.
Yeah, I was talking to you.
Was I there?
No. I said, Mum and Nanny Tracy with Charlotte were talking about...
Oh, I thought you were saying Nanny Tracy and Charlotte were talking about, and I got really confused.
Well, unless you have forgotten about it and you were in Greenwich Market this morning, you definitely were there. Anyway, Mum and Nanny Tracy were talking about kids' diseases, and I said I've heard about that kids' disease where you just can't stop playing Cluedo. You heard about that kids' disease where you can't stop playing Cluedo. You heard about it, Russ?
No.
You heard about it, Charlotte? It's Miss Scarlet Fever.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
And then I said, and they've turned it into a weapon. So basically, what they do is they throw this grenade, smoke comes out, and whoever the enemy is can't stop playing Cluedo. You know what that's called, Charlotte? Colonel Mustard Gas.
And I thought it was Charlotte with a bad construction. So.
Now, Russ, you're only acting like that because you're Reverend Green with envy.
Green with him.
Russ. What are you do with him?
But come on, they are good puns, aren't they? Cluedo-related puns.
This is not
Off the cuff, Cluedo-related puns you can't beat. No, Sophie's not happy with those Cluedo-related puns either. Let's move on with the show. Right, this is the mission for next week, right? Russ, you've got to come up with some puns, and me and Charlotte have got to pick a board game for you to come up with some puns on. Right. So, what board game should we pick?
Yeah, let's Monopoly. Look, we've got lots of options.
Monopoly. You got some Monopoly puns bit for next week, Russ.
All right.
And can I just check before we move on to the business of the darn kindness news? Are we having joke of the week this week?
Yes.
Yes. That's back permanently. So, although that wasn't,
my kind, so you don't get a say.
Although that wasn't in the recording notes, just in case we wasn't.
If it's not in the recording notes, we can't do it.
Well, this your Cluedo jokes weren't in the recording notes. I didn't see them.
Now this is part of the preamble bit, isn't it? So that we always go off like in different angles on the preamble.
This is what I call when I'm editing it intro chat.
Is it? That's the technical term, is it? Intro chat. Okay, fair enough. So we're going to move on with the next part in the show. And let me go back to my really professional recording notes. Thank you, producer Russ. Apparently, we've got to talk about charlottedames.com and Mug of the Week. Can you give us an update on what's going on with both those things, Charlotte?
I need more mugs.
Right. And me and Russ not enough.
No, unless you want me to post your pictures on Mug of the Week.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should give that a go.
I'm wondering how many views you'll get for I really like pigeons.
I need to post that somewhere.
Oh, pigeons.
Russ, I don't know if you received the one where your face was photoshopped onto a pigeon. And it just said, I am a pigeon.
No, you need to send that to me.
I will.
You are now a meme, Russ. You are now a pigeon meme, but it is only in the Dames family. So we'll Charlotte can send you that. Charlotte can send you that pigeon meme through. How's CharlotteDames.com getting on?
Regular, as always.
I see this week that you posted a new article.
I did indeed. It was about distance because I just come back up. Oh, that's the boy. I just come back up, and the journey was long.
The road was long.
Yeah, I was on that coach for 11 hours.
On the coach.
11 hours.
Ooh. And
Yeah,
I thought my travel tomorrow on a train for 2 hours was going to be bad.
So it's like 11 hours each way. It's supposed to be 10 hours, but it ended up being 11 both ways for some reason. I don't know why.
Did you manage to get any work done on the coach or not?
No,
Did you get your assignment in?
bet I did.
Don't forget
Done.
to plug your poetry as well.
Oh yeah, the poetry I'm gonna work on tomorrow. That's gonna edit the website for some poetry. It'll probably be done by the time this goes out.
So you're going to put the poetry on charlottedames.com as well?
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to reading that. On that note, let's talk about what we're doing on Kindness News. And we've got two people from the happiest list that we want to showcase today. I'll do the second one, but can you talk about Charlotte Hussein Mohammed Hussein for me, please?
Yeah, of course. I'm looking at the wrong notes. Oh, I clicked on the wrong attachment. There we go, found it. I had next week's notes. Refugee Hussein came to the UK in 1999, aged 9, after his parents sent him to live with his uncle to escape conflict in Somalia. Growing up in Lambeth, South London, he joined a Somali-run football club called Waberi FC, but in 2009 the club disbanded due to a lack of funding. In 2015, Hussein set up Streatham FC, a community football team and charity that aims to support East African communities living in London. Today, Hussein trains children aged between 6 and 19, about 80% of whom are from single-parent, low-income households. About 70 kids play regularly, and during the last summer's school holidays, the club ran a football program for 2,035 kids with help from council funding to encourage healthy living and strengthen confidence.
Love that. Well done, Charlotte. That's amazing. And well done, Hussein, for doing that amazing work. I want to tell you a little bit about Stuart Hutton Brown. Blackpool-based Stuart found in counselling in the community to help make talking therapy more accessible to adults, children and young people in the city. Since 2017, the donation-based service has enabled more than 130 people to receive counselling every week. Every person, if they can afford it, pays a small donation, depending on personal circumstances, to keep the service running. The social enterprise has so far worked with more than 930 adults and providing more than 6,000 hours of counselling in 2021. With his hub currently in capacity, Stuart is fundraising to establish a second centre in Liverpool, which would serve as another and wider community hub. And I think that's really important because both those are really important. On the podcast recently, we've been talking quite a lot about men's mental health, and it's not restricted to men, clearly, but both those things, getting involved in sport, and making sure you're active in teams and getting involved in that, and clearly talking about the challenges you're facing with people who can help you with it, are both really, really important things to do. So well done to those two amazing legends for doing that work. On to the interview. Today I want to talk to, and it's the second part of this meeting with, second part of this interview with Emma McNally from Achieve Your Greatness. Actually, Emma's amazing at sharing some of the tools that she uses to help people live kind of better lives for themselves. And in this part of the interview, we share that, as well as talking about a new book, which is out now. Let's listen to the second part of the interview. So, what's the question that you find the most powerful to ask?
Okay, so there'll be a number of them. So one of the ones, obviously in the coaching world, is, okay, so how is that a problem for you? And then, so what's stopping you? So if somebody's like, oh, I want to do so. So what's stopping you?
Yeah.
If you know what's stopping them, then that would be what we would work with in a coaching environment, and to help them to change that so that they then can get past that hurdle and move forward.
Interesting, really, really interesting. Thanks for that, Emma. Now we're here to talk about how people can be kinder to themselves so that they can be hopefully kinder to others. Tell me a little bit about some of the techniques, tips, strategies that you use with the people you train to help become kinder to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So being kinder to yourself, one of the first things to think about is, what are you actually saying to yourself? Would you say that to somebody else that you love? Yeah. Would you say that to your friends or family? So that internal dialogue, we talk a lot about that internal chat, the thoughts that you have. And if they're not helpful or kind, it's basically changing those so that they become kinder for you and more helpful. So we look at upgrading language, so changing the words that we use. We look at, so the words are like the surface, we look at what's sitting behind and if there's any beliefs that we need to change. But it's very much one of the ways you could start to do that is start to look at what you're grateful for. So just simple tools of starting to think about gratitude.
Yeah.
Because what happens if you imagine your brain is full of billions of neurons, okay? So it's a bit like, imagine it as a jungle, all right? So the first time you go through a jungle to create a path with a machete, it's quite hard work, right? So you're cutting down this pathway. But after a while, the more often you go through that pathway, the wider that pathway and the easier it will become. So that's how we create habits. That's how we learn. But also that's how we can choose to create new neurological pathways to something better. So by having gratitude, you're going to be, the more you think about the things that you're grateful for and the things that are within your remit to change, then that's going to help you from a mental health perspective, but also from a kindness perspective. This whole thing around, one of the things we talk about is stress, for example. Stress is created if you feel out of control and there's overwhelm. And we then look at the things that we can control, such as our response and things within our remit. And changing our focus means that it can help you feel a lot more grounded, a lot more safe, a lot more in your own body, so that you can then have those resources to help others. But being kind to yourself, first of all, is so important. Does that give you a couple of
really good, really useful. I think right. I mean, it's that it's interesting, isn't it? Because often the self-talk is a lot more destructive and detrimental than what you'd ever say to anybody else.
Exactly.
And it's, why do we do that to ourselves? It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. So what that is that that's a manifestation of a belief that sits behind. So let me share, for me, when I first discovered NLP, one of the biggest beliefs that I changed, the first thing I changed was that I wasn't good enough. So my internal self-talk was, well, you can't do that. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, don't be stupid. That's really not helpful. And every time we use those words, those neurological pathways are being fired to something that's less than helpful. Change that belief to, well, I am good enough. Yeah, then suddenly the dialogue changes.
Yeah, I really like the concept of neuroplasticity, if I can say the word.
That's the one.
I'll try it. I'll try it again.
Go for it.
Neuroplasticity. I can't say it. Neuroplasticity.
Yes.
There's a T in there somewhere that I've missed, but I'm relaxed. But yeah, I love the idea of just having that ability of actually firing off sort of different thought processes so that you build that. And as you say, sometimes it starts really simply with gratitude, doesn't it? Where are you lucky and where are you where can you effectively show that show you that you're lucky. I suppose one of the big things though is the starting point. So if somebody's listening to this and saying, I need to just be a bit kinder to myself, but I don't know where to start. Where do they start?
Okay, so you could start by looking at 5 things every single day that you're grateful for. And to be kinder to yourselves, 5 things that you like about yourself. Okay, that might be a little bit of a stretch to start with, but 5 things that you like about yourself. 5 things that you think you're good at. 5 things that you have achieved that you're proud of. It's just starting to think in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, we look at the difference that makes the difference, and NLP is all about the art of thinking differently. So rather than thinking, oh well, our brains and we haven't got any choice over it, we can, and we have, through neuroplasticity, through this whole neuroscience, we can choose. So just by starting to do that and noticing when those unhelpful things pop in and doing something, we call it reframing.
Yeah.
So those unhelpful, you know, I don't know, maybe you're driving down the road and suddenly somebody pulls out in front of you and you're getting really angry and all of that sort of thing. And we use this phrase like maybe they're in a rush. By just thinking about it differently, that can help us to feel different, and that will be kinder for us, because our thoughts impact on our physically and our immune system. It's called psychoneuroimmunology. But so by changing our thoughts, we can start to change our physical reaction and help support our immune system. So kindness all through.
See, your language was really interesting there. So I picked up on the fact that you said the art of thinking differently.
Yeah.
Is it art? Is it science? Or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both.
How come?
Yeah. Okay. So the science is a neuroscience bit. So the science part is absolutely neuroplasticity. We can basically change our thinking. We can change things. We're not the way we were yesterday is not going to be the way we are tomorrow. Okay. So that's the science bit, which is awesome. The art or the skill around it is practice and being able to learn how to do this. So you can learn, and being then able to master it. So that's the book, How to Master the Controls of Your Life. So mastery is about practice. It's about applying these things, but you need to know how. And what I do is teach people how, and like I say in the book, I'm giving loads of tips and techniques, how to change beliefs, how to change emotions, how to change behaviors, all those things. So you can have choice rather than feeling. Have you ever felt like a ping pong ball that sometimes somebody is nice to you and you're feeling up in the air and everything's great, and then something happens and you're down into the troughs? Yeah. What we can do is help so that you can manage that.
Manage it. Yeah.
And I can't promise an easier life. I can't do that. What I can do, though, is promise you tools so that when curveballs happen in our lives, you can find a way to move through more easily.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point you make about gratitude is really important. And as you say, having all the facts and applying those facts in a messy, complicated life that we all have is different, isn't it? And as you say, that's where the art and the sort of techniques come into play. But I think the other point you mentioned that was really interesting is that focus on what you can control. Because I'm a massive fan of, and I only got into this probably over the last 6 or 7 years, but Stoicism and Stoic philosophy. And one of the main tenets of Stoic philosophy is the only thing that you can actively control is you. You know, the action you take. And we knew this 2,000 years ago, right? It's not new knowledge, but it's just that element of going, right, what can I physically do in terms of the action that I can take to move that forward?
Absolutely.
Now, what are you most excited about when it comes to the book coming out?
Okay, very excited about the book launch. Let's be honest about that, because that's going to be a big party.
Amazing. When's the book launch?
So 23rd of November. So book launch, that's going to be loads of fun. I'll tell you for why it's going to be loads of fun is because a lot of my students, the people that I've trained, are going to be there, and it's a massive celebration of NLP. So and people, you know, the stories that they have of how it's changed their lives, it's been just phenomenal. And to be even a tiny part in sharing this with other people. So yes, of course, excited about the launch, but actually the reason why I wrote it is because it gives people a guide that is accessible to everybody. So rather than it being sort of this mysterious thing out there, what I've done is I've made it real with some beautiful step-by-step. This is how you could change your beliefs. This is how you could change an emotion that's not working. We talk about about worry. We talk about self-care. We talk about creating space and how to manage your energy. We talk about conflict and clarity. We talk about relationships. So it's a practical, simple, conversational guide to help people where they are to experience a better outcome in terms of their lives. So that's really what I'm so excited about.
You mentioned about sort of getting a lot of your students along and sort of telling some stories. What's your favourite story of somebody you've helped and how they've sort of positively changed their life for the better?
So many stories. To pick one is really tricky. So I've worked with people who so one person had a loss in family, was really, really close to them. And that person had spent 5 years crying and unable to stop crying. And it was really, really, really all consuming in terms of her life. Worked with her, did a session with her, and completely blossomed and was able to not only move through that situation but actually build relationships, have a fabulous career, just by letting go on that grief. So I've worked with people in terms of grief. My own story, I guess it's the easiest one to share, is that when I first found it, in terms of overwhelm, stress, difficult relationships at work, I think I said to you, Chris, didn't I was going in for an operation. My dad had been given too much anesthetic and had been given a heart attack on the operating table 2 years before I went in for an operation. So I had this massive fear and belief that I was going to die, and being able to use NLP to change that so that I could then go in and have a different experience. So working a lot in terms of health, people with scan anxiety, working a lot in terms of imposter syndrome. I work with CEOs and directors who, are going, oh my goodness, I've got to keep running. People are going to, catch me out and find out that I'm an imposter, and working with them so that they can then work with somebody recently who felt that they'd hit the ceiling. And then suddenly they've been able to put a proposal into one of the biggest organizations in this country, and the company is fine. The company is just absolutely blossomed. So yeah, there's so many stories. To pick one, tricky. Tricky, so many.
Okay, so what's the most common issue when it comes to being unkind to ourselves that you come across? And how do we help our listeners tackle that potential issue?
Yeah, okay. I would say it's blaming ourselves. Yeah. And not letting go when we make mistakes. Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
So a lot of people are still carrying around things they've done years and years and years ago. Okay. Firstly, we're all human. Okay. We all make mistakes. Okay. And that whole thing about being kinder to ourselves, to realize that we are human. We have this beautiful presupposition in NLP. There's no such thing as failure, just feedback. And to be able to then go, okay, so what do I need to learn from it, allows us to move forward and to forgive ourselves and to then move forward so that you don't have the guilt and everything else holding people back.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm completely with you on that. But there's a element of accountability for the actions you take, even if it's a mistake or not. But that's different to blame, isn't it? Because accountability, you can actually take action to change it, and blame is just an emotion that you think, what do you do about it?
So yeah, absolutely. So I talk a lot about that in the book. It's about living at cause or living at effect. Okay. So if it's blaming and and either circumstances or ourselves or whatever, it's a very stuck position. You're not going anywhere. It's either everybody else's fault or I'm terrible. Yes, I'm an awful person. Well, that's not helpful. Whereas if you're living at cause, then you're saying, okay, I made a mistake. What do I need to do about it? How do I learn? How do I move forward? How do I fix whatever it is? And the biggest thing for me is to be able to put my hand up and go, yep, I made a mistake right here, right now. It's so liberating.
You know what? I genuinely, I've got to tell you this, right? Yeah. So I write about this in the book. So and I think we are certainly as a culture and as a society better at being more vulnerable now than we used to. And I like, so I think there's a freedom in just talking about the mistakes you make, and as you say, admitting it wrong. But the big, and I write about this in the book, and it's one of the funniest mistakes I've ever made, but one that I just my reframe of mistakes is, if it makes a good story, it's definitely worth making that
was worth
mistake.
it.
So right, so that was the second part of the interview. Tis the end.
Here's the end of another podcast.
And the end used to mean question of the podcast, which I've got to be honest, I'm missing question of the podcast.
We don't get enough, like, you know.
Say that again, Charlotte.
We don't get enough responses anymore, so.
No, it's since my Facebook decided to go kaput, we don't get the avalanche of responses, do we? But it has left space. Sorry, one really important thing. One thing we are getting a decent amount of response on is the Kindness Project book. That seems to be flying off the shelves at the minute, which we're loving.
Oh, really?
And if you put the Kindness Project into Amazon, you can pick your copy out now.
Nice.
Available on Kindle, paperback, and maybe, if the demand is there, in the future, audiobook. Russ is giving me a big thumbs up. How do you feel about that, Russ?
Well, I was reading something online that people prefer audiobooks to paperback books now.
Funny idea. We could release it as like little chapter by chapter.
That'd take forever.
Yeah, it wouldn't be funny though.
Little chapter by chapter.
Yeah, like as if it was like the same way we did the podcast for.
Release a chapter a week on the podcast.
It'd be funny though.
No, but we want people to pay for it so we can raise more money for the charity, though, don't we? That's the thing.
True.
So that we need to do. But maybe we do an audio book at some point in the future. We'll see how we get on. And on that note, we're going to end the podcast now with this week's
joke of the week.
Really bad
Joke of the week.
Yeah.
Nice. Why do they call coffee mud?
Because it's dirty?
Don't know. Why do they call coffee mud?
Because it was ground a couple of minutes ago.
When you got to laugh at your own.
It's not as bad as this Cluedo joke, though.
I know, exactly. And it wasn't even like.
I wasn't
even laughing at my own joke. I was laughing at your reaction.
You were laughing at my Cluedo jokes, I know, because they were amazing. On that note, have a lovely week, and we'll see you on the podcast soon.
Bye.
Bye.